Welcome to Simply Living Wellness, where you'll learn how to love yourself, heal yourself, and how to nurture your mind, body, and spirit. Today, we're here to talk with Ynge Ljung about the autism spectrum disorders in children. This includes autism, ADD, ADHD, Asperger's, among others. We're going to talk about the commonly unknown causes for these disorders, as well as the commonly unknown treatments. These holistic treatments may not eliminate the disorder, but they certainly will improve the symptoms and side effects dramatically. Ynge has seen this firsthand over and over again in her practice. We're going to look at gut health and common allergies, especially to foods, and other offenders that are overloading these poor children's bodies, often causing the autism and all the symptoms. And let me tell you, you won't hear this stuff from your child's doctors. This topic is so important because approximately 1 in 25 are on the spectrum. And we are seeing the number of people with autism double every 5 years. But before we bring on Ynge, I wanted to let you know that today's episode is sponsored by healthandyoga.com, which is a complete yoga resource website that has just about everything you ever wanted to know about yoga. You'll find yoga communities, courses, trainings, very cool and unique wellness products. And my very favorite area of this site is the retreats page, where you'll find amazing retreats and workshops offered all over the world. So just visit www.healthandyoga.com, and when doing your checkout, use the discount code DAWN3958 for a 5% discount on any purchase. Once again, that's healthandyoga.com, and the code is DAWN, D-O-N, 3958. Ynge Ljung has been an acupuncture physician since 1995. She is a body talk practitioner, a naturopathic medicine doctor, an acutonic practitioner, alternative holistic healer, and former NATE practitioner. Her extensive education in both Eastern and Western ideologies allowed her to create an easy, powerful, and affordable way to say bye-bye to your allergies once and for all. Ynge calls this the allergy kit. We're going to hear more about that today and how it ties in with the autistic children. Ynge is the author of Finding Your Lost Child, which you can find on Amazon, the Kindle version, and the published book will be coming out in May of next year in bookstores. I am thrilled to welcome Ynge Ljung to the show. Hi, Ynge.
Hello there. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm very excited to have you here and share this really important knowledge with our listeners. I just want to get more out there because a lot of this information, as you know, Ynge, is just not commonly known because the doctors aren't telling the parents. The doctors don't even know about it, really, in many cases. So we just want to get this information out there. I know that's why you published your book. So let's just start a little bit with your background and, you know, how you got into becoming a naturopath and then to go on and develop the allergy kit and to help autistic children.
Well, as you said, I graduated in '95 and started to treat people and had great results, but there were some people that didn't change. And I started on a quest to find out what that could be. And I found NATE, Nabudrapad's allergy elimination technique, because a lot of illnesses and disorders have to do with allergies. And that is now more than ever.
Mm-hmm.
The NATE was great, but it took too long time and was too expensive, too time consuming for people. And I mean, I had autistic patients and I saw what their parents, especially the mother, mostly the mothers, what they go through, how much patience they have, and how really difficult it is. Often their marriages end up in divorce and they are the sole person responsible for their kids. And And also many people, they live far away from practitioners that can help them. And for myself, for example, I only have 2 hands. I can only do so much. So that's how I started to develop my own system. It's different from NATE. It's a different protocol, but I wanted to do something that people can do themselves, that parents can do on their kids, that they can do on themselves too, for that matter. And that is not so costly, that it is a way to take their power back, because they go to doctors, they get medicines. Many people don't even want to put their kids on medicines. They don't want to drug them.
Are you finding that really? I think I thought that was the norm pretty much.
That is the norm, but there are parents who don't want to do that. They try everything else, and they spend thousands, if not $10,000s of dollars in different kind of treatments, speech therapy and behavioral therapy and all these things that really don't work, because the reactions these kids have is mostly allergic reactions.
I see.
And it can be food, and we get our immune system from what we can absorb in the food. And if we are allergic, and it can be different reasons that the immune system is not strong enough. I mean, one of them is the SAD diet, the standard American diet, which does not do very much for the immune system.
Yeah, let's take a step back a minute. So the allergies are caused because the immune system is weak, is one of the reasons. Is that what you're saying?
One of the reasons, yes. Because
Okay.
if we had a perfect immune system, nobody would ever be sick.
Sick or have allergies. Okay.
Yeah.
I see. So the immune system is compromised because of our diet and maybe all of the toxins that we come across every day in the air, in the water, in the foods.
Yeah.
Talk about the gut too, and how that ties in with the allergies, how it causes the allergies.
That is, already Hippocrates said that all disease begins in the gut. And today, first of all, we don't eat right. Second, our food is poisoned, unfortunately. With the Roundup, that every crop is sprayed with Roundup. It's not only the GMO food. I don't know if you want me to mention anything about the GMO food, because the gene manipulated organisms, that most, for example, corn and soy and cotton and then a lot of other things like apples and pineapples and papayas, they're all changed. It's not the original food.
So when you say the food is poisoned, that's what you mean. You mean it's not the original food, it's been genetically modified.
It has been, yeah. So apart from because when they started with this to genetically modify it, I understand that the idea was that they could use less poison for when they grow them, for pests and insects and other plants that grow that they don't want there.
Weeds. Mm-hmm.
And weeds, yes. But what happens is that they spray them even more. And then we have, for example, wheat, which is not modified, but they have figured out that when they spray the wheat a couple of days before they harvest it, all the leaves fall off, so they don't have to take care of that. The kernels, the seeds, the wheat kernels, they get fatter.
Oh.
But they're just full of poison.
I see. Yes.
And then
all that poison is leaking into the soil and then into our water system also.
Yeah, and not only that, it's an antibiotic. I think it's classified as a pesticide. Well, I mean, it is a pesticide, but it's
A
an herbicide, a
pesticide?
pesticide, but it is also a antibacterial. So it destroys all the bacteria, good and bad. And
I
we know
see.
today that we are just about 2%, and the rest of us is bacteria and viruses and pathogens and all these things. We didn't know that before, but
Our
so they,
bodies consist of
yeah,
that.
so they destroy all that, and I think now that 98% of all these new illnesses like diabetes and autoimmune disorders, thyroid disorders, Hashimoto's, and there are many of them. 98% is due to the glyphosate in the food.
Which comes from the pesticides?
Yeah.
I see. I
And
see.
also, it's not only the fields, because people use Roundup in their houses, in their gardens. It's everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah, they say now every packaged product like cereal and crackers pretty much has trace Roundup in it, pesticides.
It is in everything. It's in water and air and everywhere. But at least if you eat organic, even though some people say, I just spoke to my chiropractor today, he said, no, I don't believe in that. I think it has glyphosate also. Yes, it does. But at least it is less.
It's less, yeah.
And they have found that they put them on an organic diet, that they get better. These people get better.
The autistic kids.
Autistic, other, anybody who has any kind of illness, if they start to eat organic, they do get their digestive system starts to repair.
I see. So the food is poisoned. It's also lacking nutrients because it doesn't have the good bacteria.
No, it kills everything. It kills the soil too.
And then that compromises the gut, and we'll talk about in a minute how that affects creates the allergies. But you also said people don't eat right. So talk a little bit about the standard American diet and how that's compromising the gut also.
Well, it is not, first of all, they have the biggest, it's the food pyramid. You're supposed to eat a lot of grains.
Yes.
And I mean, the pyramid is totally upside down. They should just turn it.
Exactly. And we've known that for years. It just takes so long for our government to make changes.
Yes, and if people are not informed, or if they don't, I think this should be taught in schools first of all, because it really starts with our kids.
Yes.
But and also people today, they are in a hurry. They have a lot to do. They buy a lot of either prepared food, or they eat in fast food restaurants, and there is no live food.
It's all processed, heavily
It's all processed food, and that doesn't do anything more than harm to the gut.
Talk about how it actually harms the gut.
First of all, it often makes people constipated, because the food is it's too much grains, too much wheat, too much processed, and it all clogs. It just becomes a big glue in the intestines. And on top of that, people don't drink water. They drink sodas.
Which has the high fructose corn syrup.
Exactly. And it's all toxic, plus it's sugar. And it's a vicious cycle. And so people they get overweight. I think half of the American population, if they stop drinking sodas, they would go down to normal weight just by stopping sodas.
Probably. I know, and a lot of practitioners say that obese people are actually starving. Our systems are starving because of the lack of nutrients, even though we're heavy. People are heavy, but their body thinks they're starving.
Of course, because the food doesn't have any nutrients, so the body is craving more food. And they are also allergic, and that's really where the allergy kit is very important, because when you have cravings we can take sugar. I mean, most people crave sugar because they feed it all the time. So probably candida also. But once you have, for example, if you take the allergy kit and you treat yourself with it. Treatment number two is for sugars. Once it has stuck, so to speak, you don't have any sugar cravings.
Wow.
And it's not only sugar, this is just an example because it's the easiest one to explain.
And it's a common one, yes.
Yeah. So people who are overweight, they crave more food because they don't get the nutrients. So they can eat and eat, they don't feel full.
Exactly. So, all right, so the gut gets compromised from the poisons, from the lack of nutrients, from not eating properly, whole foods, organic. How does it lead to the food allergies? Isn't that the leaky gut because it creates?
Yes, leaky gut. So when you don't feed the body what it needs, and you have, for example, with the glyphosate and all that, what it does, it interrupts the junctions in the fine lining in the intestines, and the particles start to come out in the bloodstream. If you have a complete system, you will first digest all the food before it is absorbed in the small intestine, in the lining.
I see.
But now, since it's leaking, it goes out in the bloodstream before it's digested, and then when the blood sees that, they think it's a foreign object, and they start to attack it, with the macrophage and white blood cells, and there is a war because they think they have to react and eliminate this. And this is how, when you do that enough, then you have an allergy to that. The first time it doesn't react so much, but when you constantly eat the same thing that is toxic or not absorbable by the system, it develops as an allergy.
Because it's seen as a foreign object.
Exactly.
And that's what they call leaky gut, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It can go both ways. It can be that you have allergies, and then that produces the bad digestive system, so it's like very important to eat nice, good, clean food.
Okay, so the allergies, the poor diet can create the allergies. People may already have allergies that leads to problems as well. So let's go back to then the allergy kit and how that can, eliminate these allergies, and therefore it allows your gut to heal. Is that right? When you stop the allergies?
It's funny because we humans, we crave the things we're allergic to. And for example, in autistic children, they crave milk, and they can be very allergic to the casein. And the same thing with wheat. They crave pasta and pizza and bread, and they are allergic to one of the proteins in the gluten is called gliadin. And that and the casein, they're both opiate. They react, when they're allergic to it, it can react as an opiate. So some kids, they get like high when they eat either casein or wheat. And they can have a lot of different reactions. For example, wheat can make them not have eye contact. It can make them have seizures. And of course, all the other stuff that comes with bad digestive system, they are all constipated, which also means that they absorb more toxins than if they had a normal bowel movement.
I see, because the bowel's sitting in the intestine.
It's sitting there, and it's just being reintroduced to the poor liver and repackaged out as toxins again, and it just goes round and around. So, and also, apart from food, the kids can have reactions to paints or clothes. How many kids do you hear about that don't want to have clothes on? They want to go around naked, and it's okay when they are 3 years old, but then when they are 15, it's not that okay.
And it's from the toxins in the soap?
It can be that, but very many of them are allergic to the fabrics itself.
I see.
And and then you buy you don't buy organic, you buy cotton, and you think that's good, but that's that's BT cotton, and so it's not easy.
Well, and that's why the allergy kit's so beautiful, because it's all around us. It's almost impossible to eliminate the environmental factors, especially for the children. So what your solution is to treat them for as many of these allergies as possible, so they don't react to their clothing and to the foods and to the poisons as much. Is that correct?
Exactly. And sometimes, I mean, I have the latest autistic child I have been dealing with is the mother bought the kit in April, and like within 2 months, the kid was totally changed. He was extremely violent, running around with chasing them with a knife or a scissor,
Wow.
doors and walls that are hacked up. He was so violent and so angry. Only 8 years old.
Oh, wow.
And then he has totally changed. He's like 180 degrees.
Wow.
He
And
could never sit down and do any fine work with his hands, for example, in class. That would end up with kicking and screaming. They had to carry him out. Now he can sit and dissect what was the last thing they did? Something with owl poop or something, which he could have never done before.
so that was with the allergy kit. Did they also change his diet?
Well, he gets setbacks, and I have tried to say that, they say, okay, but they give them wheat, they give them pizza in school on Wednesdays. And then he has a setback. So that is still exactly because of the glyphosate. They should never, even if they are treated for wheat and gluten, they should never have that. Nobody should ever have it, but these kids less than anybody else. They are so sensitive to the glyphosate that they really cannot have it.
Do you have a glyphosate vial
Yeah.
in your kit, or
Yes, I do. I
you
do. Mm-hmm.
And it helps,
It helps. Yes,
but
it
they still should
definitely helps.
avoid the food.
Yeah, so if they just have something a little bit now and then, they won't have a reaction. But eating a whole pizza, like kids do, it's just too much for their system.
Yes, I know. I'm about to interview a podcast. I know of a parent who had an autistic child, and he was having over 200 seizures a day,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing was working, even the medications, and they didn't know what to do. And they happened to hear on a news broadcast about ketogenic diet. And, I'm sure any of those diets could work. The point is that ketogenic doesn't have, it's very low carb. So they're not, automatically just stop eating gluten and all of these
Exactly.
types of
Exactly.
grain.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And within 1.5 weeks, his seizures had almost completely stopped.
Oh, I believe it. Yes.
Dramatic results. Yeah. And that was just diet alone. Imagine if he had the allergy kit also. So
Yeah. I can so easily see how difficult it is, especially with this kid, for example, he's 8 years old. I mean, 8 years, 5 years, whatever. And in schools, they have Fridays, for example, they give them often candy. Sugar is another thing that is really detrimental for anybody, but specifically these kids are sensitive. It often is colored, so they have color in the sweets, in the candy, whatever they get them.
which is a chemical.
And then they have birthday parties, and they have wheat, they have cakes. It's not easy.
No, it's not.
So it is hard, but the parents, if they are willing to put in, it is hard work to really, really take these foods out. And do the allergy kit, because there are so many, they are allergic to so many things. It can be the paint on the walls in the schools. It can be the carpets at home, a new car, for example, a new mattress. All these things, they affect them. Another thing that I really have to say is about EMF, the computer and the Wi-Fi. It affects them in a very big way. And since we don't see these waves or frequencies, people don't think about it. And it affects us at night, because then when we are asleep, that's when the body recuperates. So I really want to say to every parent, not only to autistic children, to every parent, and for themselves too, turn off the Wi-Fi at night. Put the timer on, turn it off at 10 and turn it on again at 7 or whenever you go up and start using it. But at least have these hours without EMFs. And never sleep with the phones. Never have a charger next to the phone, to the bed.
Very important. Yes, we had an evaluation done on our house, and they found all of those things as well. And what was actually even worse than the Wi-Fi was the wireless phones.
Yeah, that's why I say never charge a wide. I mean, we all have cell phones.
Well, and even more than the cell phones were the just the landline phone, the wireless.
Oh, the wireless.
phone.
Yes, I know. Today, not most people have chargers, and they charge their phone next to their bed, and that is the worst they can do.
Because they use the phone as an alarm clock, as a clock.
Yeah, put it in another room.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that, because that's important, and especially for these autistic kids, but for everyone, really. That you can get a simple timer that hooks up to the unit that plugs into the wall for your Wi-Fi,
Exactly.
for your modem. Yep, it's about $10, and you can set it to turn off at 11 or whatever time, and then turn on again at 7 in the morning. So it's very easy to do some of these small changes. So I'd like to talk a little bit about this idea you mentioned at the beginning about empowering the parents, empowering the people to help themselves, because you're right, when you know, even if they were lucky enough to find the holistic track, and maybe they're doing something like NATE or one of these other allergy elimination type protocols, it could be very costly and a lot of time to go to the practitioner every week or several times a week. So tell us a little bit about how your allergy kit works and what exactly happens. They get shipped to their house, and
Yeah, they order it online and then under the allergykit.com, and it gets shipped to them. And I always recommend that they try to learn muscle testing first, or maybe not first, but anyway, during the time, because it's a way where they can test what is good for their child, or for themselves too, for that matter, by muscle testing. And if the child is small, or what, you can always use a surrogate. For example, you can use your husband to test your child by testing your husband or whoever it is. You know, it can be husband or another sibling that's a little older. And the person who is being tested holds on to the person they are going to test.
I see.
And they can also just say, I am, and they say that, for example, if it's a child, say the child's name. I am whatever the Johnny. I am Johnny, even though this person's name is Fred. I am Johnny, and he will be strong, so that you know that you're testing the other person. It's because for many people it sounds like woo-woo, but it really, really works.
Tell us a little bit about muscle testing. I'm familiar with it, but a lot of our listeners may not be.
The concept is that when something is good for you, you're strong. If it's not good for you, you will get weak. And the easiest way to test that is with sugar, because everybody is allergic to sugar.
It weakens everyone.
It weakens everyone. I wrestled with somebody, a strong young man once, and just to show, I put a little sachet with sugar next to his arm, and I overpowered him.
You mean an arm wrestle?
Arm wrestle.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. That's interesting. I totally believe it. So that's the concept of muscle testing. Now, I can imagine if the parent learns it, it can be quite effective and help with understanding which vials to buy, because I know you have vials for just about, you know, every common pet and food and emotion even. And, you know, the kit has the most critical ones in it. I've used it myself and on my kids as well. But I know you have a lot of extra vials, so this would help parents maybe in knowing which vials to purchase.
Yeah, and also, first of all, they can use it when they buy food, if they bring the kid, and test what is good for them or not. And that way they can also figure out what they are allergic to. Now I have also hooked up with a company called Allergy Test. So when I finish the kit, they can send in a hair sample and get tested for food sensitivities and allergies.
Oh, nice. Do
Yeah,
you
so
know their website offhand?
allergytest.co.
Okay. And for our listeners, I'll have that posted with the show notes.
Yeah, so we will have probably a,
So you empower the parents to do these treatments. They can help treat their children to eliminate some of these allergies. If they change their diet, that's really going to help. If they turn on the EMF at night, it's really going to help. What are some of the other offenders that these extremely sensitive kids are dealing with?
well, the vaccinations, I have a lot of kids when they have been treating for vaccinations, which is treatment number 4, there is a big difference.
Wow, because a lot of parents had the vaccination years ago for their children.
The frequencies are still in there.
Yeah, and, new parents may decide not to do vaccinations, but a lot of parents, like my kids, I didn't know any better, so I treated them with your vial of vaccinations.
And nowadays, they have substituted aluminum for the mercury. Then they recommend flu shots, which still has mercury. And the combination of the aluminum and the mercury, even though it's on different times, is detrimental. Because they're both neurotoxins, both aluminum and mercury, they're both neurotoxins. But when they are together in the body, it's much, much worse effect.
And the fact that they're neurotoxins contribute more to the spectrum disorders.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, some people say they absolutely doesn't have anything to do with it, but there is too much research that shows that it is.
That it is connected.
Yeah, there was one researcher who, because they have said, they test these kids' blood and they can't find any mercury. Then there was this guy who tested monkeys.
Mm-hmm.
And no, none of them had anything in their blood. But then he opened the brain, and the brain was full. So that's where it is, and that's that's not good.
No, it's not. How about heavy metals?
Well, that is also vaccinations. The mercury is heavy metal, and there is heavy metals in a lot of stuff. Dental fillings, if the kids have fillings. If I know with some kids that have bad teeth and the insurance doesn't pay for the composite, they won't pay for that, so they put these mercury fillings in, amalgam, and that is so horrible that they do that. I mean, that has really shown so many people who have changed their fillings and they feel much better afterwards. And then they put them in these kids that really don't need it. I recommend that if the kids pay for it out of pocket.
Now, a lot of people will say, well, there's plenty of kids that have fillings and eat these pizza and, that are not autistic. So why is it that some kids, the autistic kids, have these problems? Can you talk about that at all?
Yeah, well, I think first of all, I don't know how long, my kids are old, and I'm from Sweden, and they are not vaccinated. They had one vaccination or something. But here they started probably around 50 years ago or so, or more, to give them vaccinations. In the beginning, I don't think it was that much neurotoxins in them. I really don't know. But with each generation, they give them more and more vaccines. I don't remember if it's 40 vaccines they've had by age of 2. So I think, first of all, that totally takes down their immune system. But the other thing is that this is now the 3rd generation who is getting vaccinated. And I think each generation gets weaker and weaker immune systems.
I see. So the kids that end up with the spectrum disorders,
they are very sensitive. They're very sensitive.
They're sensitive to begin with.
Yes.
Maybe have weaker immune systems.
Mm-hmm.
And so then these items like the dental fillings and the food and the EMF.
And then there can be many other things also. Mothers can have dental fillings. I think that has something to do with it. Nowadays we have Lyme's disease, Epstein-Barr disease, all these things that lower the immune system, and it is dormant for so long that people don't even know they have it. And I think that's another thing, because many of these kids on the spectrum, they have Lyme's disease too.
Wow. And since we're talking about that they don't even know it, I'd like to go back to the allergies, because I know that pretty much everybody has allergies to, let's just say, foods, for example, that people don't even know about.
Exactly.
And until you do an elimination diet where you go extremely clean and then introduce foods one at a time, a week apart, you don't know you have the symptoms of the allergies. So talk a little bit about what some of the conditions are that people commonly have that are really could be because of food intolerances or other allergies. Like, how do these allergies show themselves that people are labeling as other problems and not food related?
The most common, I think, is sneezing and coughing, asthma, headaches, but then eczema and rashes, for example. But little things like bloating, that is reaction. And it can be either because it's an allergy, which I think it's an allergy anyway, but it can be because people eat the wrong things together, for example, or eat the wrong things, period. The same with heartburn, or what they now call it acid reflux disease.
I see.
And that is a typical allergic reaction. And most people, I mean, so far I really don't know anybody who has done the allergy kit who hasn't gotten rid of their acid reflux.
Wow. So your allergy kit, I mean, I know we're focusing today on autistic kids, but really help anybody.
And another thing is, and that happened, for example, with myself, is I had for years pain on my hips, but I didn't know why. But I couldn't sleep on my sides. And my chiropractor said, oh, well, that's age. And I said, how come I have it sometimes and not other times? Well, he couldn't answer that. I finally figured out that it was the wheat. And it's the American wheat. I can eat not all wheat in Europe because they import wheat from here. But for example, in Israel, I can eat any kind of bread. It doesn't affect me at all. So it's not that and I think that is with many, many people. It's now a craze with gluten intolerance. I don't think it's gluten intolerance at all. It's glyphosate intolerance.
I see. So the gluten-free foods still have glyphosate in it.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the American wheat, is it because of the glyphosate? They don't add that to the wheat over in Israel.
Yeah, exactly. No, nothing of that.
Yeah.
So aches and pains. For example, they had a group. There was another research. They had a group of older people, and they put them on wheat-free diet, and 82% perhaps not got rid of it, but they got better and had less pain.
Well, that happens to me all the time. I mean, I have arthritis, what I call arthritis in my thumbs. My mother had it, my sister has it. But I know that when I am not eating wheat, it goes
better.
away. Yeah, it's much, much better. So, yeah, these allergies are real problems because, even just insomnia or depression or emotional issues, a lot of those as well can just...
Oh, yes. And that is especially with these kids on the spectrum. I have, for example, patients and clients that I have recommended to them that before the kids go to school, they treat them with, this is from the emotions kit, they treat them with anxiety or fear before they leave house, because they're always afraid. They are always scared. They don't know what they're going to react to, and they don't know that they're reacting. If they have an outbreak or a meltdown, that's a reaction, but they don't know why.
Exactly.
And so they treat them with the anxiety or fear in the morning, and when they come home, they treat them for anger. and it seems to be pretty good. By the way, this kid that I told you before who was so violent, he told his mother that, Mommy, I feel as if I have been living in an underground cave and now I'm coming out.
Oh, so lovely to hear.
And that's what I think that these kids feel like. And they don't understand why they are like they are, but it's not their fault.
No. And it's becoming such an epidemic. That's why I really want to get this information out to everyone. And we are out of time, Ynge, but I wanted to just remind everyone that they can go to theallergykit.com to see more and learn more about your kits. There's many different kinds. There's the base kit, plus, like you mentioned, there's an emotional kit, there's an animal kit. So yeah, just go to theallergykit.com. And I know, Ynge, you had a special offer you wanted to give us today for our listeners. Why don't you go ahead and do that?
Yes, they will get 10% off coupon of Save 10.
Save 10. Okay, so just when you check out, use the coupon Save 10. You'll get 10% off.
Save written and 10, the number 10.
The number 10.
10, yes.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. And I encourage everyone, if you know somebody who has an autistic child or an adult, to get Ynge's book, Finding Your Lost Child. Once again, you can find it on Amazon, the Kindle version, and it soon will be in bookstores all over the U.S. in the spring of 2019. So
just wanted to add to all these kids, they're growing up. So we have a lot of grown-ups who are on the spectrum, and the kit works for them too.
Excellent. So it helps these autistic kids and adults and just people who are suffering from general symptoms.
And the parents.
Yeah, the parents as well, with the emotional issues of just having an autistic child, because it is a lot of work.
And you have to remember, you can be allergic to absolutely everything. You can also be allergic to your mother or your child.
Wow. Very, very good to know. That's why the muscle testing is so important.
Yes, and it can be treated too.
Well, Ynge, thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time and the information that you've shared. I look forward to getting you back one day soon.
All righty. Very good.
Congratulations with your book. Really,
thank you.
Yes, very exciting. So
thank you.
Bye, everyone, and we will be back next week.